Hi everybody, it's Jim Accomando, and it's a few days before Christmas, and all through my house it's been very busy, and I'm trying to squeeze in a video log for you all to give you a flavor for what's coming in 2019. So Leslie Boggs and I are going to break up into teams, and Leslie's going to do a Power Up series for president-elects and first-year presidents, and I'm going to do what's called What's Next for presidents who actually are terming out at the same time I am at the end of June, 1st of July. And so what I'm going to do is go through kind of an overview of what's to come. So leadership development, as you know, is one of our 5 strategic pillars, and this is a response to your ask for us, National PTA, to make investments in our leadership development. We'll have more on that as we approach convention, but I wanted to give you a little bit of an insight or an update. So we're going to continue with these What Next calls. Targeted audience, of course, is presidents who are off-boarding. We've also got a leadership book that's coming out. We've got a book club. Leslie will be spearheading that. I'll be a member of that book club. It's a John Maxwell book. We'll talk a little bit about that later. We've got tremendous leadership training at LegCon and convention. We'll get into that on this video log, as well as the State PTA Institute at National PTA Convention in June. We've got certified courses, which many of you have asked for. So let's begin. So What's Next vlog will actually be monthly. It'll be on demand. I'll be filming here from my office or on location at any point in time. But we're going to provide leadership lessons. We'll have a brief one today. And we'll also focus on PTA, conversations with officers. So literally we'll have Marcus will give us perspective on legislative issues and advocacy. We'll have Denise Soltz talk to us about being Secretary Treasurer and financial stewardship, if you will. We'll have Anna King talk to us about membership, the progress we are making, the challenges we all face, etc., and hopefully some insights. And of course, Leslie Boggs will be on board. She'll be talking to us about her own transition and how she's powering up to become president of National PTA. Inspiration and action will challenge for deeper thinking on action items. And so we'll get into that a little bit later as well. So interactive conversations about leadership is how you'll be able to participate in what we're calling the What Next networking call. So let's begin with the book club. So this is a John Maxwell, How Successful People Lead book. Leslie's already had a sign up for that. I'm on there. I'm pending my book to show up. Many of you probably have experience in traditional book clubs. I attended one at my local library and through my church group. The only thing I have in common with those book clubs is I seem to be the only male in the room. So hopefully we'll actually get some males to sign up. And otherwise I'm used to that position. And we'll all go through reading a chapter each week on our own. We'll have a period of self-reflection, and then of course we'll be able to participate. Leslie will run a PTA lead community via BoardSource, and so we'll actually be able to share these best practices. This book club will go on from January 21st to March 4th. More of that to come later. Training. This is really big. We've got state president-elects training at LegCon. I'm really excited about this because you had asked us to go ahead through NCAC primarily was one of your sources, but also through our meetings that we've actually had on the telephone. Training, more of it. Many of you who have been around for a long period of time know that we used to have regional training, then training called TCBI, which was regional training. We had emerging leaders conferences. We used to invite and pay for president-elects, first VPs to come in, but each and every year, if you imagine, many of you experience this in your states, with declining membership means declining revenue. And each and every time we've had to cut back. Well, we've cut back way too much. And so that's why we were talking to you about making those investments in our association and more about that in January on our President's Call, as well as at convention when the delegation gets to vote and choose. At the end of the day, we started to jumpstart primarily several of these initiatives. We did a regional training down in the Southeast, and now we're actually expanding our training, not only in length, but in participation. So the president-elects and first VPs were invited. If in fact you don't have one of those positions, I've made allowances where you could bring a designee. But bottom line, the curriculum that we're offering has been fully expanded and re-energized. We also have 2 segments for that. There's again the power up of those continuing on that will follow the path of Leslie, and those powering down or offboarding or what's next, if you will. So we've got a variety of segments, but these are really going to address three topics: board of directors, leaders and members, and external stakeholders. So very specifically, we're going to have 8 interactive trainings. And some of these are going to be in a pre-conference sessions. We also are going to have 2 distinct audiences I've mentioned to you: president-elects and presidents. The topics that we're going to talk about are DISC assessment, a leadership development series, state PTA effectiveness workshops, and of course, we'll have symposiums for addressing urgent issues. For many of you that have never taken a DISC training, just wanted to kind of go through that very quickly. That's like a personality or behavior assessment tool. And I took this a while back, but I don't want to reveal what my letter was, but I'll let you kind of unfold on what you think it is, as well as if you haven't taken DISC training, you'll be able to find out what personality or behavioral traits you have that go into your leadership criteria. But the D actually stands for dominance. And some traits of somebody with dominance would actually be blunt, direct, forceful, strong-willed, driven, fast-paced, self-confident. Now, if you were the I, that stands for influence, some of those traits are enthusiastic, optimistic, convincing, warm, and trusting. S is steadiness, and some of those traits could be humble, calm, patient, deliberate, consistent, and accommodating. And of course, C, conscientiousness, and independent, analytical, careful, cautious, diplomatic, tactful. I think many of you can agree that while we probably possess some of those traits in a majority, we all of us in our leadership styles go through the DISC behavior analysis in the sense of the types of traits we portray or exude in our leadership styles. We'll be getting into the leadership development series, some team building strategies. Incoming leaders will have crucial conversations, as I mentioned, with those talking conflict resolution. I will share with you as president of National PTA, many of our states, 35% of them right now, are actively engaged in some sort of conflict, and hopefully will actually conflict resolution. Now this could be very minor, just a ruffle of the feathers, or it could be pretty major. And many of you in these affected states know what I'm talking about, and I'm sure we don't hear about everything. This is just human nature. Unfortunately, the higher up we get in our organizations, our respective organizations, the further we get away from where our mission really takes place, which is in the classroom at the school. So I keep trying to have you remember your why and our mission, of course, and all of our values, and of course, every child, one voice. We'll be putting together something for outgoing leaders, as I mentioned, the offboarding. So incoming leaders get their objectives. Outgoing, we'll talk about our past presidencies. Transitioning, what the roles we will play, like ambassador, mentor, coach, etc. Very, very key for many of our states and for national, of course. So we'll talk a lot about that. We'll get into state PTA effectiveness workshops, which will bring up parliamentary procedure, which is a valuable tool. We'll talk about public speaking, advancing your state and family engagement, that role, family and community engagement, etc. And of course, our symposium will actually be on foster care and of course the ever-present public education equity funding. Now, bottom line, at the end of all these courses that you would actually take, there's a certificate for completion. We actually call this the PTA Leadership Institute. And at convention, we'll actually have you come on stage and we'll give you your full completion certificate in front of the entire delegation. For a quick lesson, ABCs, as I mentioned to you before, my wife is a teacher, second grade teacher. So ABCs comes from the elementary school, of course, but also ABCs in the sense of leadership. And I'll look at the A as attitude, B as behavior, and C as conversation. Attitude, my gosh, you project your attitude every single day, whether it's at home with your family, or it's at the workplace, or in any sort of social environments. It's one of the only things you can control. You control how you respond to all kinds of situations. You control if you're going to have a good day or not such a good day. So at the end of the day, if you're a half glasses half full person, or if you're kind of a pessimist, etc., You control that. And I know that's difficult. That's not really easy. And many of us are happy-go-lucky sometimes in a day, and many of us are actually hold our head down and be pessimistic. But at the end of the day, it's one of those elements that we can control. So I only wanted to mention to you, attitude is so important, because as a leader, people follow your pathways. And if you're a positive person, you look at solutions based versus problems. You identify those characteristics in your behavior that actually want to have people emulate. That all projects through your attitude. And if you're a can-do person, that all comes through. So all the positive aspects of attitude, try to project onto your team, onto what you're doing on a daily basis, onto your mission, and you'll see great results. Behavior is the B. Again, behavior is very similar to attitude. Walk the talk, walk the walk, talk the talk. People will actually follow you based on your behavior. Much better than the words that come out of your mouth. If in fact your words say one thing and your behavior says another, I think the behavior is the piece that's going to stick and resonate more. So make sure you're a good steward of your own behavior. Really be very mindful in the sense of how you respond to things and people, and try to actually, again, be very thoughtful and emulate how you would like people to be responding to your needs. Please respond in your behavior appropriately. Conversation is C. A conversation is something, literally we're having that dialogue right now, but conversation is really two-way. I know it's really tough, very tough for me, in the sense of you've got this great idea that you want to share. You want to get that out immediately. And so it's very difficult for you to just pause and listen. 2 ears, one mouth, and make sure that that resonates with your folks. And when somebody responds to something, so you're about to make a statement, and again, all this is challenging, but when somebody is actually trying to make, when you're trying to make a point, to make a statement, and you find that there are some folks that necessarily are not on board, it's okay. It's okay. You don't have to correct them. You don't have to provide them again with your opinions. If in fact somebody comes in and says, no, I have a different belief, or I want to counter that, throughout conversations, it is actually okay just to say thank you and move on to the next person. At the end, if you want to have a closing dialogue, that's great. But you don't have to countermeasure everybody's differences of opinions. So a conversation, remember, is two ways, not one. And it's a sharing of all of our makeup, all of our opinions, all of our experiences, if you will. And hopefully, by listening more effectively throughout a good conversation, productive conversation, we actually can get to an actually better solution. So maybe 1 + 1 actually equals 3. And we can all get to a better place. So remember, attitude, project that positive attitude. Behavior is the B. Emulate the type of behavior you want others to see in you or reflect back to you. In conversation, make sure it's open, make sure it's welcoming, make sure it's inclusive, make sure the opinions are diverse, and that they're meaningful. And turn that into a 1 + 1 = 3 scenario. Well, that's it. That's our first video log. I want you all to just make sure you disconnect for a while. I know it's Friday for me before Christmas weekend, and I'm headed off to California to spend time with friends and family. And I'm going to try to unplug. We really need to. Unplug, give your body a rest. Unplug to give your mind for a rest. But I want to let you know that I appreciate everything you guys do. Absolutely everything you do. We're all mission focused. It's challenging at times. It's volunteer driven. So we all give up a lot with our families, with our businesses, with our personal time, etc. But it's worth it in the end. I shared with you a heartfelt Christmas message that came directly from my observations of seeing my wife as a teacher in the classroom, and how the preparations and the excitements are driven just before this holiday season. I wish you all the best, safe and joyous time with your families, and we'll catch up with you in 2019. So take care. Bye-bye.